Greetings everyone from New York. Welcome to the second session of this webinar series on strengthening budget credibility through external audits. As you know, this series aims to enable peer learning on the different ways in which Supreme Audit Institutions may assess and address budget credibility. And in today's session, we will focus on auditing the state budget or year-end accounts. This series follows the launching of Strengthening Budget Credibility through External Auditors, an Auditor's Handbook, which explores different approaches to auditing budget credibility and provides a practical overview and examples of existing audit work that can contribute to improving budget credibility. We have also developed a pocket guidance, a short document based on the handbook, which is also available, and we will share the link to both the handbook and the pocket guide with you during the session. You are all welcome to introduce yourselves in the chat, including your name, institution, and country. And we would like to invite all of you to share your experiences, your comments, and also to ask questions to the speakers through the chat. And we will have time during the session to discuss some of your questions with our speakers. To moderate this interesting session today, we are delighted to have with us Mr. Sébastien Lepers, Deputy Director of International Relations of the French Court of Accounts. Sébastien, welcome. Thank you for accepting the invitation to join us, and the floor is all yours.
Merci beaucoup, Arancha. Thank you very much, Arancha. Hello, dear colleagues from Paris. I would like to thank International Budget Partnership and Institutions for Sustainable Development Goals from a branch of the United Nations, in particular, Claire and Arancha, for their invitation to moderate this excellent panel of this very interesting session on auditing the end-year accounts of state budget in the framework of the general topic strengthening budget credibility through external audits. We will learn and share a lot of information about experience in different regions of the world. We will talk about different approaches to auditing budget credibility and the audit work that can contribute to improving budget credibility. We will discuss so far on how SAIs are enhancing the analysis of the credibility of government budgets. Let me introduce very quickly myself. I'm Sébastien Lepers, a counselor at the French Court of Accounts, where this subject is taken very seriously, with 4 fundamental annual reports published every year: the report on the implementation of the state budget, the 2 acts certifying the accounts of the states, and the general social security system, and finally, the report on local public finances concerning local authorities. But time is short, and we have a meticulous timed agenda to keep track of. So I'm going to ask Mr. Nimas Albert de Souza and Roberto Victor from SAI Brazil, my colleague from Cour des Comptes du Maroc, Moussine Hanoun, Mr. Lasha Kelikashvili, representative from SAI Georgia, and Samuel Frimpong from SAI Ghana. I saw him on the screen. To take it in turns to present for 8 minutes each what you have to share with us. And I think after the 2 first speakers from SAI Brazil and SAI Morocco, there will be a poll with the audience for 2 minutes before resuming with our 3rd and 4th speaker from SAI Georgia and SAI Ghana. So let me pass the floor to Mr. Albert de Souza from SAI Brazil. Mr. Nimias Albert de Souza from SAI Brazil.
Hello. First of all, thank you for the invitation for this webinar series. I'd like to begin by saluting and thanking UNDESA and IBP for the initiative to coordinate the development of this handbook, which deals with an important aspect of our work, namely that of auditing state budget. This is a crucial element for government auditors worldwide, and the handbook comes as an invaluable contribution for our work, really. And I'd like to begin by, I believe you can see my slide deck. So I'm going to...
Yes, fine.
I'm going to begin here by mentioning that we are going to talk about, I'm going to elaborate on the audits, on auditing the end-year accounts. So we are talking about recurring audits of the budget. So I will expound on and develop this concept to clarify what we mean by auditing the state budget.
Com dois você aí, só para dizer, cara, não sei se você está acompanhando.
I'm sorry.
One mic is open. Maybe.
I'm sorry. I'm having an issue here with the presentation. Okay, maybe this works better for me. Oh yes, now it's good for me. So I will begin by mentioning that in the UNDESA IBP handbook, we have discussed really a toolkit. This is a toolkit for auditing the budget in terms of the work that government auditors worldwide can undertake. So for each one of these topics, we have developed a technical chapter, which we invite all listeners and viewers to consult, to check at the handbook, which is now available. And we discuss in this array of possibilities. We talk about assessing risks at the whole of government level, assessing risks at the program level, program/entity level, auditing the performance of the entire PFM system, audit reports and follow-up. So how should we think about developing the reports in their final form for greater impact, and then follow-up. And finally, recurring audits. So recurring audits is one of 5 items in our toolkit. So what are we talking about when we mention recurring audits? First of all, I'd like to mention that these are comprehensive audits of the government's accounts. So this is a key characteristic. So we mean that these audits are comprehensive, they are broad-reaching. So if we're talking about an usual individual audit, this is not really the subject I'm discussing here, but rather comprehensive broad audits that deal with different aspects that intend to really analyze the entirety of the government's budget execution. These audits are also a second characteristic is that they are undertaken on a recurring basis, typically every year. And usually we're talking about an audit with the nature of financial audit. So what tends to happen is that according to the SAIs and the nation's individual mandate, one common occurrence is that the government at the end of the fiscal year must file its financial statements and other documents detailing the budget execution with the SAI. And then the SAI proceeds to make an evaluation of the government's budgetary execution. Of course, we conducted a survey in the development of the handbook, and 89%, so a very high percentage of responded SAIs mentioned that they conduct financial audits in the recurring budget audits. So this is a very high percentage. They may be combined, of course, with other types of audit engagements, such as compliance auditing, forensic, and performance audit engagements. So this is really a common thing, which we will talk about a little bit more later. And another critical point to take into view here, which at first glance is a challenge to really discuss the subject, is that the formats tend to be highly divergent between countries. So each country has a different trajectory, different mandates, and these recurring audits can take on different approaches. But really, when we detail the topic, we find that there's a common ground. There's common ground for discussion, and that's an opportunity for us to benchmark and to advance in our work. So why should we be mindful of these recurring audits? Why are they so important in our toolkit? First of all, we already have, typically, SAIs already have a statutory mandate to conduct these all-encompassing audits. And they are an audit of major overarching budgetary issues. So we have the opportunity and the ability to discuss and to interfere, or at least to evaluate and provide guidance on major critical issues related to budgetary execution. So this is a really important tool or document type of report engagement that we can approach. And finally, this is a highlight of the SAI's communication strategy. Usually there's a great deal of attention given by stakeholders, so the media, citizens, the legislative branch of government, watchdogs, international donors, all SAI stakeholders, and also the government itself. Stakeholders tend to really get their interest piqued by these yearly engagements. So this is really an opportunity for the SI to show its value and benefits and contribute to the nation's budgetary improvement in aspects of budgetary execution and related matters. So to summarize, these audits have the potential to impart strong impact with major important results for the audited entities. We could maybe discuss some issues with these recurring audits. What some of the key challenges SAIs face? So first of all, there's the issue I mentioned that they are divergent between countries. So there's a degree of path dependence. So each SAI has different mandate, different institutional trajectories. So at first glance, this may make it seem like it may be difficult to learn about this topic and to advance on it, because you can always say, no, this is the way we have always done things here in our country, in our SAI. But really, this is just a superficial look. If you take a deeper approach and analyze and study the subject, you will find that there's a common thread, an underlying guiding path that SAIs take. Why there's a reason, there's a common reason why we do these types of audits and what we expect to achieve. So really we can learn from others and learn from the literature. Also, these recurring audits should not be confused with a mere compendium of results. So this is not just an SAI institutional report. Of course, naturally, SAIs can bring results from individual audits to their comprehensive report. This is expected. But this should not be relegated to a mere compendium. There must be an element of critical analysis in the recurring audit, so as to make it really an actual audit. Recurring audits, they have a broader outlook, so they really require greater resource allocation, a broader knowledge of audit subjects, and proper planning for a greater undertaking, for a greater audit engagement than your typical audit work. And there's also a final issue, which is follow-up. So given the audit's broad nature, we must be careful to weigh recommendations so as to avoid making excessive recommendations, or perhaps recommendations that are incoherent between each other. And also we should weigh carefully handing out responsibilities as a result of issues we may find. This is especially an issue for core type SAIs, because we're talking about a broad subject, which may make it more difficult to establish responsibilities in individual roles for managers. Associating a manager behavior with a result in such a broad subject should not be taken lightly. So these are some key takeaways for conducting recurring audits. First of all, recurring audits of the budget, they provide an outsized contribution for the SAI's public standing, value, and benefits perception. So really, they provide great return for investment, let's say, for SAIs. they are really worth it because of the impact they have for stakeholders, for our intended public. They are conducted on a recurring basis. This is also very interesting because this allows for incremental improvements and for tracking of the government's results and budgetary execution results over time. So really having the chance to look into things as they happen and provide almost real-time contributions to improve issues rather than take a look at effects that happened many years ago. No, this audits take place every year, so we really can make contributions effectively. And as I mentioned, they are part of the budget auditing toolkit, which we talk about in the handbook. So it's noteworthy to think about them as part of a broader approach to auditing budget credibility rather than in isolation. So I believe this is a mistake that SAIs can make, which is to run recurring audits, a broad audit of the state budget in isolation. This is not the ideal approach. It's much better to think of it as part of an array of options, and then you can bring findings from other audits to your broad recurring audit, and vice versa. Develop on findings from recurring audits in later individual engagements. So it's better to look at things systematically rather than in isolation. Finally, we think that SAIs should consider refining their approach with different audit type engagements. We find that variation and diversity in terms of audit approaches provide value for the SAI. Given the SAI's mandate, we recommend that they look into the literature and international benchmarks, which, as I mentioned earlier, is very much possible and desirable. And SAIs can also, depending on the case, consider additional mid-year recurring audits. This is a type of audit that not many SAIs undertake right now, which are, in addition to a general all-year round recurring audit, SAIs can also take on mid-year audits, let's say every 2 or every 3 months during the budget's execution, and make perhaps more timely contributions. So this is an option that we discuss also in the handbook. So finally, I'd like to show the handbook's cover here. In my presentation, you can control-click the image, and then you have access to the handbook's files, and to download it, to check it. The handbook will really go into detail about these approaches, the opportunities for SAIs, and what we believe are some good recommendations for the improvement of SAI work related to budget execution audits. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, dear colleague, dear Nimias, Albert de Souza. That's correct. Thank you very much. And it was very interesting to have your presentation here, and we learn a lot, and thank you for sharing. Then we move to our colleague from SAI Morocco, la Cour des comptes du Maroc, mon cher collègue Moussine Hanoun. Hello.
Hello. Thank you, Sébastien. Thank you, Arantxa and Claire, and also thank you for IBP and UNDESA for this meeting. I think that after the great work done before, which gave rise to the handbook on budget credibility, it's very important to organize those kinds of meetings to promote the manual and also to share experiences and practices with peers from different countries and from different sides. I will try to share with you. It's okay?
Yes, we can see it. Yeah. Fine.
Okay. In my slides, I will present to you the role of Moroccan SAI in strengthening budget credibility through external audit, in particular the audit of the state budget. Firstly, I will start with a brief overview of the mandate of the Moroccan SAI and the implication of this mandate. Then I will try to explain how the SAI of Morocco strengthens budget credibility through external audit, especially auditing state budget. And I will move on the methodologies used generally within the SAI of Morocco. Then I will end by presenting some challenges to link budget execution and performance. The Court of Accounts in Morocco, like other SAIs around the world, plays a crucial role in strengthening budget credibility through external audit. It has a large mandate and it's legally mandated to carry out a comprehensive audit of the government budget at the end of the fiscal year. Given its broad mandate, the court can also carry out audits engagement during the fiscal year relating to particular aspects of budget. For instance, this year, several audits engagement have been underway related to public finance. The first one on the implementation of the performance approach in ministerial departments and in certain public entities. The second one on the debt collection and another on the taxes. The SAI Morocco can carry out also audit at the entity level. But recently we began an audit engagement to certify state accounts. This is a new mission assigned to SAI Morocco by financial organic law. In this regard, the Moroccan government and through this since 2020, general accounting established according to IPSAS, International Public Sector Accounting Standards, alongside budgetary accounting. This new accounting includes all state operations, including those relating to assets. It is an accounting on accrual basis. It means that operations are recorded at their inception as soon as it is possible to evaluate them and for the financial year to which they relate, regardless of their collection or payments dates. The mandate of SAI Morocco for auditing state budgets carries several implications that are critical for public finance management and governance. We can quote scope of audit, the size, mandate defines the extent and nature of the audits it can conduct, but the key implication of the size mandate is the degree of its independence from the executive branch of government, and dependence is crucial for the SAI to conduct budget, objective and unbiased audits. The mandate typically outlines the SAI's autonomy in terms of operations, decision-making, and reporting. The mandate generally includes provision that grants the SAI access to all necessary information and documents from government entities. This access is critical for conducting effective audits. Also, the mandate defines the SAI's responsibility in terms of reporting its findings to the legislature, the executive, and often the public. This includes how and when audit reports are to be submitted and how follow-up actions on audit recommendation are to be monitored. The mandate establishes the legal authority of SAI. This authority is essential for effective auditing, especially in case of non-compliance or obstruction. To sum up, the Court of Accounts of Morocco carries out two sorts of audit engagements at the whole of the government level. The first one on the budget execution, the second one on the public accounts, established, of course, on accrual basis, in addition to the audit at the entity level. Those audits play a crucial role in strengthening budget credibility in several ways. Audits provide an independent assessment of state's financial activities and performance. By making findings public, audits enhance transparency, allowing citizens and the stakeholders to see how funds are being used and managed. Audits also hold government officers and departments accountable for their budgetary decisions and financial management by identifying instances of efficiency, waste, or misappropriation. Audits pressure public entities to improve their financial practices. Also, when the public sees that the state's financial activities are regularly and rigorously audited, it builds trust in the government. This increased confidence can lead to greater willingness to pay taxes and cooperate with fiscal policies. Also, audits can reveal systematic issues in financial management processes, enabling the government to make necessary reform. This may include improving internal controls, enhancing financial reporting system, or revising budgetary policies. In summary, auditing the state budget or year-end accounts is essential for maintaining fiscal discipline, ensuring transparency and accountability, and ultimately strengthening the credibility of the government's budget process. In all audits carried out by SAI Morocco described before, we use generally a risk-based approach. In audit of the government budgets and audits at entity level, we use generally compliance and performance audits. For audit of financial statement, we use financial audits. The challenge we usually face when auditing budget execution is the lack of link between budget and performance. Linking budget execution to performance in public sector financial management presents several challenges. SAIs plays a crucial role in addressing those challenges through their audit. Personally, I think that the main challenges in linking budget execution to performance are lack of performance metrics. Often government programs lack clear, measurable performance targets or metrics, making it difficult to evaluate outcomes against budgetary allocations. SAI address this by recommending the establishment of clear, quantifiable performance indicators and goals for all government programs and expenditures. Reliable and comprehensive data also on both financial performance and program outcomes are often lacking. SAIs can advocate for improving data collection, management, and the reporting system, and use their audit processes to assess the quality of data used in performance evaluation. Many government programs are complex and multifaceted, making it challenging to directly link financial input with specific outcomes. SAIs conduct performance audits that take into account the complexity of those programs and provide recommendation for simplifying or better structuring of programs to allow for clear linkage between budget and performance. Also, frequent changes in government policies and priorities can disrupt the continuity needed to assess performance effectively over time. SAIs can recommend mechanism to ensure stability and continuity in policy implementation, even amidst changes in political leadership or priority. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's it. It's finished.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Shukran. Merci beaucoup, cher colleague. Thank you very much. Dear Mohsin, it was very nice to hear you and your presentations. Then there will be, I talked to everyone here. There will be no poll, but if somebody has a question, has an information to share, we have just 2 minutes before passing the floor to our next colleague. Then it's up to you. The chat is open. You can take the floor. You can ask your question about these 2 first interventions. No, it's okay. We can see the traffic of Rabat. with Musin. Thank you for the picture, Musin.
Yes.
There's a good weather in Rabat, in Morocco.
Yes, sunny day.
That's good. So there's a 2 new message. We can move to the next speaker. Okay, thank you, Arantxa. So I have the pleasure to welcome Mr. Lasha Kelikashvili, the head of State Budget Analysis Division from the State Audit Office of Georgia. So the floor is yours, dear Lasha.
Yeah, hello, and again, many thanks to IBP and DESA for this nice project and really very helpful product that was created within this project. I will tell something about the handbook, content of handbook, what was some findings from this handbook. And the assessment of several SAIs, about 38 SAIs were assessed based on questionnaire, and what was some results from that questionnaire. And also I will share our experience, SAI Georgia's experience in terms of budget credibility and report regarding our report regarding annual budget execution. So as our colleague Nimias already mentioned, most of SAIs conduct financial audits of NDR government accounts. So it's actually financial in terms of standards and procedures, but many SAIs, based on this questionnaire, many SAIs also conduct or attach to financial audit report a separate report or an appendix to this report, a separate part of state budget execution, annual execution. And by assessment, it was identified that this kind of report is one of the effective way to push changes and to support budget credibility in terms of improvements, and not only in financial accounting terms. It's a room for state Supreme Audit Institutions to support changes in terms of policy, in terms of legal framework, budget planning, medium-term planning, and so on. Because based on this assessment and based on these questionnaires, most of these reports and analysis that is used for preparing report on budget execution use mix of tools, tools of performance audit, compliance audit, financial audit, and it's a kind of a mixed report, not a classical audit report, but still works very well. And some of the points, for example, that can be supported by this kind of reports and put forward for changes is like public finance management system in a country, like budget program planning process and assessment of program planning framework existing in a country. Also effectiveness and performance of program budgeting and so on. And one of the crucial aspects is for this is existence of performance budgeting system in the country, and this topic was discussed also in previous webinar. First. And I will share a little bit about our experience, SAI Georgia's experience. So we, like many other countries, we conduct standalone audits, financial compliance performance. But one of the important project and important report from our perspective is our report on state budget execution prepared annually. Like many other countries, methodology of this report is mostly mostly mixed of performance audits and compliance audits, also some elements of financial audits. And in this report, there is considered many topics, and many topics are covered that is omitted from standalone audits. Like, for example, we regularly check compliance to fiscal rules and policy direction and their implication for fiscal rules. Like situation in terms of fiscal risks and contingent liabilities existing in a country coming from, for example, state-owned enterprises or public-private partnership and so on. Also, within this report, we try to assess the framework for planning individual program and project budgets from year to year. And actually, the start of first 3 months in our office, State Audit of Georgia, auditors are responsible for assessing individual low execution programs that was not delivered as planned. They are responsible for assessing how they were performed during the year and what was the reasons for low execution. Was this deficiencies in terms of planning or some challenges during the execution process? Yes, we have still challenges like many other SAIs, and also this handbook shows that there is some challenges and many challenges in terms of measuring service delivery and in a timely manner. So yes, we can measure it. Some time is passed, but timeliness is an important one, and mostly this service delivery is covered in individual and alone performance audits. And this, I think, this is a challenge for many countries, as this handbook and the questionnaire showed, and also in Georgia. And last one, what we do, this is the management of government debt and anything related to government debt related issues like debt related service cost, sustainability analysis framework, also debt management strategy and relevance of this strategy for country situation. Also effects of on public debt of interest rates dynamics, currency exchange dynamics, and so on and so on. So public debt management process is one of the deepest part of our annual report, and there is many challenges, not only in debt management, but like many other countries. So, yes, we have many challenges, and we from our side try to push some changes. This report is submitted to the parliament and parliament committees, finance and budget committee, and many other committees discuss our report, and there is based on this their discussions and some push from our report. There is some good changes in the country if we take, for example, last 10 years, for example. So, anyways, to summarize, in this handbook, there is discussed the ways SAIs can prepare reports regarding budget execution, what kind of information several countries include in this report, and what are potential benefits of this kind of reports that is prepared regarding the state's annual budget execution. So that's all from my side.
Thank you very much, dear Lasha. It was interesting to listen to you about your practices, methodologies, and experience, and thank you for sharing all of this with us. So we move to Ghana, and I can see Samuel Frimpong, Assistant Auditor General of the Ghana Audit Service. So thank you to be here with us. And so the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. I would want to share my presentation.
Okay, with pleasure.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity to be part of this webinar. And thank you to International Budget Partnership, also the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs. SAI Ghana is grateful that you have also considered us to be part of this webinar, so that through our audits, we can find out how to strengthen the budget credibility of Ghana. Yeah, we are discussing the auditing. The topic is the auditing the end year accounts or state budget. And as you have seen, it is SAI Ghana's experience that I'm going to share with us. And the overview for our discussion is going to be centered on the mandate of SAI Ghana to audit the end year accounts or state budget. And then we will look at the methodologies that we use in auditing the state budget. And then the challenges, recommendations, and positive impacts that we can also look at. SAI Ghana has the mandate to audit the budget through our Ghanaian Constitution, Clause 2 of Article 187. That is the main law of Ghana, which mandates the Auditor General to audit public accounts of Ghana and all public institutions, including the courts, the central and local government administrations, universities, public corporations, and all organizations established by an act of parliament. Now, when this is done, the reports are supposed to be submitted to Parliament or the legislature within 6 months after the end of the immediately preceding financial year to which the accounts relate. And this can be found in Clause 5 of Article 187 of the 1992 Constitution. That is the main law of the land. Now, specifically on the budget, the Auditor General is mandated under the Section 13 of Audit Service Act to audit the following. That is the record keeping of public and government accounts, how the government accounts records are kept. Secondly, the Auditor General is to audit how revenues are collected and how they are accounted for. In addition, we are to audit how expenditures should be based on the approved budget from the legislature. And lastly, how programs and activities should be undertaken with due regard to economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. And here we are talking about the performance auditing, which is part of our mandate. And therefore, we have a department which is in charge of performance auditing. So as part of our auditing of the budget, performance auditing is also prominent. We also have the financial and the compliance audits also be part of it. Now, what are the methodologies that we use? Basically, we use the risk-based audit methodology. That is to examine the risks and then come out with the areas that we should focus because of the complexity of the budget. And then also we look at the Ghana Integrated Financial Management Information System, which is called the GIFMIS. And that GIFMIS is a platform that seeks to address gaps within the budget preparation process, within the budget approval process, within the budget execution process, and also within the budget reporting process. All these are supposed to be done when, after the Appropriation Act is passed by the legislature, all the figures or the budgets are uploaded into the GIFMIS platform so that we could monitor and find out whether an institution is spending outside the approved budget. Now, what are the challenges and the recommendations and positive impacts that we can derive from this? Now, when we take the budget preparation, one challenge that is prominent that we can find is inadequate documentation and also record keeping that hampers the process of the budget. And therefore, in our recommendation, we will see something that should address this. Additionally, when we are talking about a budget approval, the challenge is that after the executive has presented the budget to the legislature or the MPs, they need time to scrutinize the budget in order to ensure that all the areas that they are to approve are in line with the law. But our MPs don't have the luxury of the time to go through it thoroughly in order to identify areas that should not be passed. So the limited time that the MPs have is also a challenge that I think we need to look at. Thirdly, how the budget is executed. Some internally generated funds that are supposed to be uploaded onto the GIFMIS platform are not routed through the GIFMIS. Some organizations under budget and spend more than the approved budget uploaded in the GIFMIS. And this leads to budget overrun. So if an institution has an internally generated fund and they don't upload it onto the GIFMIS platform, there is a possibility that that institution may spend outside the approved budget, and that will make the budget balances overrun. And that is also a challenge. Another challenge we can talk about concerning the execution of the budget is the limited funds that the government has in terms of the taxes that we have to receive, and also in terms of the donor support that we need to get. We understand the budget is for both revenue and expenditure. And if your revenue is supposed to be 100 and your expenditure is matched with 100, and you don't get the 100 revenue, then it means you are going to face a challenge. And this comes about as a result of some entities that are not part or that do not pay the necessary taxes that will make the government resourceful to be able to meet the expenditures budgeted for. And also, if a donor support is expected and that donor support does not come, then it means there's going to be a challenge there. So you find certain institutions whose budget figures have been approved. But then when it comes to the release of funds for the budget execution, you see that lesser amounts are released as against the approved total budget. So that's also another challenge. And then finally, when it comes to the reporting, you know, we are supposed to, or entities are supposed to comply with the Appropriation Act. That is the act passed by the legislature to be able to, comply with the provisions in the budget. And also, International Public Sector Accounting Standard, IPSAS 24, that also enjoins institutions to compare their budgets with the actual expenditures. Now, these laws are supposed to be complied with, especially the IPSAS, where the basis of comparison are supposed to be the same, which some institutions do not normally want to use that. And that is also a challenge that we need to look at. Now, let's look at the recommendations and the positive impacts that we may get from all these. Our audits recommend, or the recommendation is made for entities to comply with the Appropriation Act, and then also the IPSAS 24, that is the standards. The recommendation is made for entities to comply with the standards and also the Appropriation Act. These are the main ones that if entities comply with, is going to make the budget credible for the nation. And also the Ministry of Finance is supposed to ensure that revenues that are not from the central government, that is the internally generated ones, are recorded or uploaded into the GiveMix platform to enable authorities to monitor, account, and report on it as they should. And this is the recommendation we normally make. The positive impacts that normally accompany all these recommendations are that entities are made aware of the requirements of the Act and the standards, and therefore they are made to sit up to do the right thing. And also, entities could not spend without the approved budget, as they could be penalized for that. In fact, you'll be sanctioned if you go against the Appropriation Act. And this is a check on the entities to operate within the approved budget. Thank you very much, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this presentation, and it was very useful to know what is about in SAI Ghana, in Ghana, and about your methodology.
You're most welcome.
It's very, very clear and very, very interesting. And thank you very much, dear Samuel. So maybe we can start just a session of questions, if you agree all for the panelists, before moving to the next session with our colleague from SAI Brazil, Roberto Victor, because we have a lot of questions and it's good to split it in two. And maybe I will distribute one by one each questions, and it will be better. So I have this question, just excuse me, but from SAI Indonesia, maybe our first colleague from SAI Brazil can answer it. In your country, are the three types of audit results, documents, financial, performance, and compliance, required to be made public? Does the information disclosure law in your country require it? So I can repeat if it is not clear, but maybe you can answer it. Nimas Albert de Souza, you are here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You understand the question?
Yes. So you're referring to the question made on the Q&A, right?
Q&A, yeah, the first one.
All right.
The first is for you.
The first of the three, right?
Yeah, right.
So these financial performance and compliance audits, these are the three types, let's see, the three hierarchically the highest level divisions of, let's say, types of audit work that we conduct in accordance with the international standards of the Supreme Audit Institutions, the SAI. So really, these are just ways in which we approach our work, the work we do as external auditors, public sector government auditors, and but really I believe that they make no difference as regards to the publicity of the report. So in either case, whether it's a financial performance or compliance audit, the publishing of audit results and findings will follow the general rules for SAIs. In our case, we publish as a rule, we publish the results, the final reports and decisions made on each audit, save for a very limited number of exceptions related to national defense subjects. Otherwise, we publish all reports online.
Good. So the second one, thank you very much. The second one is for our colleague from Morocco, Morocco, Musin. How does your country's internal SAI policy regulate the publication of audit documents, whether they are filtered so that they are just a summary, or whether they are all displayed online? If there is filtering, why?
In Morocco, we publish in two ways. We have annual reports in which we publish all the audit engagement carried out during the year. We publish just summarize some short version, and we also publish for certain audit engagements the entire report when the topics of the audit engagement is represent high interest for public, and for some audit reports are accompanying some documents carried out by government. For example, the audit of budget execution is spent by the government at the parliament, and our reports of the Court of Accounts accompanies the set of documents spent to the parliament.
Thank you very much. Yes, you you hear me. Okay, thank you very much, Yasin. So we move to the third question. It's for our colleague from Georgia. In your country, has there been any experience with SAI conducting joint audits with community organizations such as NGOs, academic study institutions, or involving the community in carrying out audits? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, so we have very active engagement with NGOs, mostly NGOs. Because actually we share some approaches and about how some changes in terms of public finance management and many other things. So we have some local representatives of some international organizations, NGOs, and we have very actively engaged with communication. We have meetings, regular meetings, regarding several issues. As for the rest, our meetings with academic sector like universities. It's mostly informative, what we do, how we do, and it's mostly education oriented meetings with mostly with students and other kind of representatives from universities. Yeah, that's what can I say?
Thank you very much, dear Lasha. It's okay. The fourth question is for Samuel. Dear Samuel, why are quarterly audits of the budget not conducted in all countries? What are the benefits and challenges of conducting them? I don't know, it's a very challenging question.
Please come again. Please come again. I didn't get the earlier part.
Yeah. Okay. Why are quarterly audits of the budget not conducted in all countries? What are the benefits and challenges of conducting them?
Quarterly audits.
Yeah, quarterly audits.
Okay. The mandate of the Auditor General, it is supposed to be yearly or annually, because the reports are to be presented to the legislature latest by 30th June of every year. Aside that, we also have the Bank of Ghana report, which is not necessarily on the budget anyway, but then that is also supposed to be audited biannually. That is twice in a year. So that report is submitted to Parliament by 30th June and by 31st December every year. Aside these two, we have the performance audit. The performance audit is also mandated to conduct some audits. It could be budget, it could be any other topic. But that one, as and when the reports are ready, then they are submitted to Parliament. For the quarterly, we don't normally do the quarterly audits. As I've said, the law mandates Auditor General to do annually. But then, if there is any need for any interest in any of the activities, then either the Parliament or the Auditor General himself or the President may call on the Auditor General to conduct the audit. If there is the need for public interest, then that could also be done. So aside these three, we normally don't do quarterly audits. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, dear Samuel. But please stay with me, stay with us, because I have two questions, because I have you on floor. Now, two questions for SAI Ghana. What is the experience in Ghana if it happens that SAI has pointed some recommendations to be adopted by the government authorities, but in the end, the government does nothing whatsoever to implement such recommendations? That's the first question. The second question, because I have you here online, what is the experience in Ghana if the SAI has made some recommendation, but there is no action from government on those?
Thank you very much, Sebastian. Firstly, if there is a recommendation against a government and the government does not act on it, what happens is when the reports are submitted to Parliament, Parliament has a subcommittee called Public Accounts Committee. Now, this Public Accounts Committee are supposed to scrutinize and call upon all the individuals and organizations, including the government, that have issues within the report to appear before the PAC, that is Public Accounts Committee, and answer the questions. In fact, some of them that border on criminality are channeled or submitted to the Attorney General to prosecute. And there are some that are not bordered on criminality, but rather maybe civil sense. And therefore, Parliament itself can ask any institution or individual to refund or to pay whatever sanction or whatever amount which is involved to the institutions that are supposed to receive it. Aside that, Auditor General himself has the power to surcharge and disallow any expenditure that is not in compliance with the law. And so Auditor General, even before the reports enter Parliament, if there is any merit within the report that is supposed to be surcharged, Auditor General can also do the surcharge and disallow it. And this also, I think, can also answer the second question, where if an individual or if there isn't any action on our recommendation, in the same way, when the reports are submitted to Parliament, Parliament acts on the report. And if there is any recommendation to be made to the Attorney General for prosecution, that could also be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, dear Samuel. So we have a lot of questions, but now we can make a pause and we can move on to our next panelist, who is Roberto Victor, Federal Auditor from the Federal Court of Accounts of Brazil. Welcome, Rio. And now maybe you can share with us specific examples of positive impacts of these audits in different countries. So the floor is yours, dear colleague, dear Roberto.
Thank you, Sebastian. Good morning for everyone. And I would like to share my screen with my presentation.
Yeah. I think you can make it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Do you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so I will talk a little bit about the Brazilian experience in modernizing the auditing of the year-end accounts of the budget. But to talk about that, I have to give some previous information. I would like to talk a little bit first about our institutional background, how our Court of Accounts works here in Brazil. So TCU, the Tribunal de Contas, follows the Court of Account models. It means that we have 9 ministers that judges the accounts of all public officials, except the accounts of the President of the Republic, which accounts are judged by National Congress. So when it comes to the year-end accounts of the President, the consolidated accounts, TCU has not the final say in the process. The final say belongs to Congress. But TCU has a very important role because as the term that we use here is we appreciate the accounts. And also we issue a preliminary decision to be sent to Congress. How this project from modernization in our way of working started? It was in 2009. The Brazilian Federal Public Financial Management was assessed by the PIFA methodology. And the external control, not only Brazilian Court of Accounts, but as well the Congress, received some not so good grades. Yeah? So I will give you an example of a not so good grade that TCU has received. So in the indicator 26 that deals with the scope, the nature, and the follow-up of external audit, we received a C grade, a C score, when it came to the scope and nature of audit. What was being told at that moment? That TCU was not doing the financial audit of the organizations, the public organizations. And for us, TCU is very interesting because if we go back in time, further back in time, we used to do that. So something happened in in the passing of the years that TCU has stopped performing financial audits. I don't think that's the causes are very interesting. We don't have a final cause. Maybe the inflationary period contributed for our losing the specific ability of financial audit, but just the conjecture. So what was TCU response for that? We engaged ourselves in 2 projects. It's just a fantasy name. I call them the World Bank project. The main objective of this project was to implement a capacity for TCU to do financial audit. It was a broad project. It means a diagnosis, the implementation proposal, and also the rollout of the project. So today, TCU has a established department able for doing the financial audit. And the second project, it was a project that we made with the support of the OECD. And it intended to modernize the whole of the year-end accounts. So it was a broader perspective. These 2 projects, as I was saying, was in 2011 and 2012. So what is the year-end account in Brazil? We have the entity, it's the union. Just a reminder, the biggest in value and most complex accounts in the country. And this document comprises 2 sets of documents in reality. We combine the consolidated accounts and the state budget execution in one sole document that we call the year-end account. So not only we face the challenges related to the financial audit of the consolidated accounts, but also we face the challenges of the state budget execution. So how TCU today is organized to audit the year-end accounts? We are prepared to issue 2 opinions. An audit opinion based on financial audit related to the consolidated accounts, and an opinion on regularity on budget execution that's based on compliance and performance audits. The combination of these 2 audits is what we call the preliminary decision that TCU issues and sends to Congress to be appreciated. Okay. Regarding the state budget execution and how to perform this compliance audits, especially, we pose a big importance in this handbook, this credibility, because what has been taught in the OECD project, that TCU should refine its objective in the audits. TCU should improve its planning metrics to make the audit objectives very clear. TCU should also focus on high-level recommendations, as we are dealing with the most important official in the country. We should try to make meaningful recommendations. And also, we should have a strategy, a communication strategy. So today, what are we seeing for the future? What are our prospective view? In terms of external audience, we have the general public and the executive branch that I'm not going to address right now. I would like to stress the National Congress. We believe that we have some space to create a better environment with the National Congress, because still today, the year-end accounts receives low attention by Congress. So we can better understand the budget committee actual needs and try to fulfill these gaps. Also, we see some opportunity to offer, and I put on commas now, inverted commas, to offer audit works to other committees, education, health, transportation. We today are very much able and capable of doing meaningful works in terms of specific ministries. And internally in TCU, we still can improve our audit planning. We can still integrate and combine audit efforts in terms of the president and all other officials' accounts. And also we can take some lessons from this handbook. I don't know if it was too brief a presentation, but what I was trying to bring to you is that the process is slow. We are talking about a 15-year span time since 2009, but is a steady movement. We are going forward in a steady movement that has already enhanced a lot in terms of the content of the year-end account. In the past, we were talking about some 3,000 to 5,000 pages. Today, we are talking about 800 pages, the year-end accounts. It's still a huge document. And in terms of the TCU report also, it is still a huge document. It's like 400 pages. And we are trying to diminish it so it makes it easier for the general public to understand the aspects, what are being discussed. So for the future, we still have a long way to go. But if we look back in this time, as I was mentioning, we have already implemented some very interesting novelties. So I would like to thank all the members for the participations. And I'm available for any other question.
Thank you. Big thank to you, dear Roberto. It was very nice presentation and very clear presentation. Now we can have a new round of questions. And I go back to the first panelist, and I will arrive to you, Roberto. Stay with us because you will have a question to you. So I go back to my questions. So the question here is addressing to our colleague. We stay inside Brazil, Nimias Albert de Souza. This question is for you. What is the role of budget committee in relation to the audits of the end-year accounts and budget execution? So you can see in the chat.
Yes. So yes. The role of the Budget Commission of Congress is a fundamental one. So among our stakeholders, the Budget Commission of Congress may be the number one, if not one of the top level stakeholders. So we're really interested in addressing the needs of Congress and communicating and conveying the results of our audits so as to really make an effective impact on the outcomes of budget credibility and improving it over time. So really, if we are going to make a difference for citizens and improving the state's budget, we should strive to address the needs and concerns and to better inform the decision-making by Congress, which is very often done by the Budget Commission. So they are a critical stakeholder for us.
Thank you very much for this answer. Mohsin, tu es toujours avec nous? Mohsin Hanoun, are you still there? So this question is for you. What is the relevance of external audits of the end-year accounts and the state budget to budget planning and utilization, and how can they inform budget planning and execution? Mohsin? Yeah, good.
That's the audit of audit of budget execution. It's carried out by the SAI to inform at first public how the government have spent the outcomes. And it is a very relevant report because we sent this report to Parliament. And these reports not only describe how government spent the outcomes, but also give some insightful information about why the government spent in this way. And also the report contain some recommendation to improve budget execution in the future, and findings, and we follow up every year the improvement made by the government about budget execution. I think that's the report of the audit of the budget execution is very relevant document in the budgeting process.
Thank you very much, dear Mohsin. So another question for Lasha. How can governments weigh benefits or outcomes versus spending through the audit of the annual accounts and state budget? I can repeat this one.
You mean government? How can government?
Yes, government.
Actually, in Georgia, there is a legislative act issued by Prime Minister. It's in force at about, I think, about 7 or 10 years. And it makes responsible of Ministry of Finance, based on this regulation, Ministry of Finance is responsible for preparing an action plan on our annual report recommendations. So this is like a way they are going to implement our recommendations. And this was the way government decided to take into account our recommendations. And what is the benefit? For example, benefit is related to improvement of accounting and planning process at ministries and other organizations at a lower level. So actually, technically, planning is done at a lower level of staff. And if we find out some deficiencies in terms of planning, for example, there is a capital project or a program that is overfunded or underfunded during the year, and we identify it, government can easily take some measures like increasing financing of it or decreasing. Also, let's say in terms of debt management, there was some recommendations from our side related to public debt sustainability framework that was checked by us, and we had some recommendation regarding it. Government put their plans into this action plan I mentioned previously, and they agreed to us that yes, this framework is not good. It doesn't work well, and we are going to implement new framework from the next year. And we have they are, for example, waiting. From 2025, based on this action plan, they will produce new. Ministry of Finance will do debt sustainable framework. So, like other SAIs, many other SAIs, we are like a watchdog who are responsible for identifying some deficiencies in public finance management that can't be seen from government side, and they can easily act on our findings and our recommendations. And overall, this communication between us as a Georgian government make some good product in terms of improvement in public finance management. We had also some good communication with government, Ministry of Finance and Government Administration in terms of implementing IPSA standards in the country. This process started 10 years ago, and currently it's already started implementing. We had some audits regarding preparedness of the country for implementing IPSA standards. And based on our recommendations, Ministry of Finance and Government Administration took some measures for increasing of preparedness in terms of implementation, effective implementation of IPSA standards.
Thank you very much, dear Lasha. Now we are very late. There are four last questions, two for Samuel and two for Roberto. Dear Samuel, so these two questions are for you. There are many challenges in auditing this area. So how does your side address those challenges? And what are some key recommendations or action points to advance SAI work in this area?
The main recommendations we make in terms of budgets. I didn't get the question well.
The key recommendations or action points is, I think, general key recommendation to advance SAI work in this area of budgeting audit, budget audit.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sebastian. The main recommendations that SAI Ghana we want to make credibility, where we have all the data inputted into the GIFMIS. That is the system that we use, the automated system that we use to upload the budget performance, budget reporting, and so on. So if we get all the data, all the revenues and all the expenditures in the GIFMIS platform, that will make it easy for monitoring and for reporting and for auditing as well. And also, we also have to impress upon all, encourage the legislature to be able to scrutinize the budget when the executives present it to them, so that they can do a lot of justice to the areas that are not supposed to be passed. That is another recommendation. And then finally, when you look at the IPSAS 24, where entities are supposed to present the budget alongside the expenditures, the actual expenditures, they are supposed to make comparison of the budget and then the expenditures using the same basis. So the challenge is that some entities don't use the same basis. They use different bases for the budget and another basis for the actual expenditure. That is another area that we recommend that should not be the case. We comply with the IPSAS 24 where they have to make the comparisons on the same basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, dear Samuel. Very useful explanation and very clear. And now, please, two questions addressed to Roberto. Roberto from SAI Brazil. SAI Brazil was a leader in this part of this project. How can the handbook be broadly used by public institutions? That's the first question. And the second one, excuse me, this one. What happens if the opinion of the auditor of the public accounts have many exceptions related to general opinion about the accounts submitted to the auditors? That's the two challenging questions to you, Roberto.
We cannot hear you, Robert.
Mike?
Sorry.
No problem.
I was addressing the first question in terms of the usage of the handbook. I believe it's useful not only for auditors from SAI, but also for those that work in the ministries, in the secretariats, in the executive branch, because it gives them also a good idea what are the main points that an auditor will look at during the audit process. In the second question, I would like to ask you, Sebastian, if you could articulate it again. Sorry.
Yeah, that's no problem. What happens if the opinion of the auditor of the public accounts have many exceptions related to general opinion about the accounts submitted to the auditors?
Okay. I don't think that I fully understood the question, but I was as I was thinking that if there are many exceptions in the accounts, things that are not being well addressed, is that the meaning of the question?
I think that's
because if it's that so, we need to make recommendations in terms of Brazilian legislature. We can also, if it's not the president, TCU has the mandate to reprove the accounts. And the reproval of the accounts is a serious business. And maybe it will involve some reimbursement of money spent that was not very well spent. The official is going to be unable to continue in his position. So the legal implications are very, very large. In terms of the presidential accounts, it goes to Parliament, as we have mentioned, and TCU can also, in its work, suggest Parliament to refuse the accounts. And just to say a little bit of our not so long experience, it happened 2 times, in 2014 and 2015. Our SAI recommended Congress not to approve the presidential accounts. But till today, Congress has not delivered its final decision related to the accounts.
Thank you very much, dear Roberto. Now just 2 words to conclude and to pass the floor to Arantxa, but we have seen during these almost 2 hours that Supreme Audit Institutions have a crucial role to play in strengthening the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals and ensuring that the country budget is on track. And thanks to you, dear colleagues, for your presentation, because we have seen the implications of the SAI mandate for auditing the state budget of year-end accounts. You have shared methodologies of your SAIs using to audit the end-year accounts, and this has to be said that we can focus on budget credibility and to be integrated in these methodological approaches. And we have shared the main challenges to link budget execution and performance. We saw some, we have seen some practices, interesting practices, and you share with us key challenges to undertaking recurrent audits of the budget, and see also the challenges to be tackled. And I think thanks to your examples of positive impacts of these audits in different countries, we can say that this handbook, and thanks to the questions, the numerous questions you address, dear participants, dear colleagues, we can say now that this handbook will have a long life and will be very, very useful. And thanks to all the SAIs involved in this project, and IBP and UN, and it's a very, very, very good project. And very, very happy to be here and to moderate this with you, all of you. So, Arantxa,
thank you, Sebastián. On behalf of UNDESA and IBP, I would like to thank you and to thank all our speakers, and also all those interested in budgeting and public financial management who have joined us for the session today. I think something that is coming very clear across the presentations and also in last week's session is that, and I think Roberto nicely encapsulated that in his presentation, is that auditing is not set in stone. It changes, it evolves over time, it improves. And one of the factors that contributes to that improvement is learning and sharing the experiences with others and learn from others. And to continue this learning process, I would like to invite all of you to join us next week. Next Thursday, February 15, we will have another session, the same time, 8:30 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can access the session through the same link if you have already registered, and we are sharing now in the chat also the registration link. We are going to discuss and reflect on how external audits can contribute to assess the performance of the public financial management system. We will have representatives from the Supreme Audit Institutions of Indonesia, Zambia, Kenya, and we will have also representatives from the PIFA program and from IBP to discuss and reflect on these topics. So you are all welcome to join, and thank you very much for the session today. Thank you.